Welcome
back
to
the
Iron
Brothers
Podcast
and
Video. How you guys doing? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
It's good to see you too.
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. It's good to see you.
It's good to see everyone.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
I know. It's a winter arc.
Yeah, it's the off season right now. Putting in that off season work.
I don't know about
so to speak.
I don't know about work, but
It's certainly the off season.
it's certainly the off season.
Yeah. What do we got to talk about today?
Man, we should talk about things that we're still grabbing from the race.
Maybe life lessons.
Yeah, life
in a
lessons
sense.
that we got from the race.
Sure.
And then we can also talk about plans for Iron Brothers moving forward,
Yeah.
what that might look like, and just everyday life. I think I feel like this is such a good platform just to have two brothers in Christ just get to talk about just daily struggles, daily life,
Yeah, absolutely.
but also like brotherhood, community.
Yeah.
I mean, we're backed behind Iron Brothers.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's not, don't tune out yet. Today's not all about triathlons.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there's some cool stuff that we're pulling from it still, and some things that we have certainly been talking about the future that we're actually really both excited about because we're passionate about keeping this going, whatever that looks like. And so just from the conversations that we've had, we certainly, at least for this, haven't put it to the side altogether. Like, we really want to keep sharing what we've got going on and try to bring people a part of that.
I feel like now that we're done with the race, I feel like we have even more time to pour into Iron Brothers.
Yeah, for sure.
Low key.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about kind of what we're pulling from the race still. And I was telling you before this, a couple of the things that I've been thinking about have to do with taking that experience that we had and saying to myself, how does that translate to like my day-to-day? And that's, I guess, what I've been mulling over in my head for a little bit of time now. And one of the things that stood out to me is this idea of doing the hard things sometimes. Well, I'll start over. Let me start over. I'd say sometimes the hardest things and the most rewarding things in life don't come with trophies or medals.
Man, say that again. Say that again.
Say it louder for the people in the back. Sometimes the hardest and most rewarding things in life don't come with trophies or medals. And I think it kind of rings a little bit more true to me now that I'm a father. And I don't know where I heard this recently, but someone said, they don't hand out trophies for being a present father, like for being a good dad. And not to say that you need credit for it or it's this thing that, deserves recognition. But I'd say something like that is just part of the day-to-day life of like, sometimes it's hard to go to work and, be diligent and be honest and put in all this time and effort. And granted, at work you might get promotions and things like that, but there's certainly a lot of things and a lot of aspects about it that, don't get recognized, like the stuff that you do when people aren't looking. And I bring fatherhood up because I think that's a great example of it's hard and it's time intensive. It takes patience. It's a grind for sure. And you're not going to get a trophy or a medal for it. But I think the reward is kind of in the fruits that you reap from it.
I was going to kind of
in a sense,
I was going to piggyback off that. Like, yeah, you might not see like the immediate results, like obviously of pouring in and being present as a father.
Yeah.
But like looking 20 years later when you see your kid coming back and like everything that they've accomplished and how they looked up to you and everything that they, I don't know, align with what you taught them. Yeah. I feel like that's such a reciprocal reward in the end.
Yeah, that's a good point. Real time, I'm thinking about this. Maybe it's more so about like the short term and the long term, like the fruit that you don't see for years and years to come. But still being able to, or still being willing to put in that hard work, even though you don't immediately see that finish line or that medal. Because obviously, you know, going through the Ironman, we have lots of months where, you know, you don't see the reward, but you're always looking towards that race day, you know, crossing the finish line, getting that medal. And that's the big reward for it. Yeah. And I was just thinking to myself, there's certainly a lot more things that are more important that are a lot more rewarding that don't have that like immediate finish line, or the one that you can see at least.
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback, and I feel like with training, it's so much easier to train when you know you have a deadline, a finish 100%. Line, a race day. Yeah. When you're in this off season of I don't have anything on the calendar,
right? What am I working towards?
Type of vibe, like, okay, where are we going? Yeah. Like with our fitness journey, you know? So I obviously I have no experience with fatherhood, but yes, there isn't really that finish line that you can see. So I can see how challenging it is from like a day-to-day basis in that mindset of not having that immediate finish line that you're looking towards.
Yeah, definitely. And then I guess the second thing that I've been thinking about is this kind of idea, this perspective. I was reflecting on the Ironman, in being in the midst of it, and kind of the mental grit that it took to get through that. You know, just for hours on end, feeling like you've given it everything, and like you've expended all the energy, all the effort that you have, but still pulling from somewhere and like making it happen. Yeah, it certainly is a huge mental game that you got to play. And I feel like through that, coming out of that, I was like, oh, my mental game's probably sharp right now. Like I'm probably so dialed in to do hard stuff now. You know, I could do it for hours and hours and just sit in that pain, sit in that uncomfortability of it. You know, I lived in the pain cave on August 25th. I know what it's like. I've been in there and I've seen the light of day. Anyways, and I was trying to translate that to my life in those hard moments. I was like, okay, where do I get strained in those moments where like I'm really being pulled mentally? And I bring it up again, but like being a father, having a under 1-year-old, there's certainly times day to day where I'm like, she's been crying for like 10 minutes and I think I'm donezo. Like this is too much for me right now. And I'm like, what happened to that mental sharpness that I thought I had? And I was just trying to figure out what the difference there was. And you know, a couple things popped out to me. I was like, well, one, during the Ironman, I pretty much knew exactly what I was getting into that day from the get-go. I knew around how much time I would be out there. I've been feeling that same energy exertion for a while in preparation for it. And I knew it would end at some point. I knew kind of when it would end. And I just had a better idea of like what that moment had. And then I think to like the day-to-day stuff, and you're like, well, it's so dynamic. Like with certain things, I don't know how long it's going to last, or I don't know how much energy I'm going to have to put into it, if it's going to get like way worse or if it's just going to end right there. And it's certainly more dynamic and more chaotic in a sense. And so in a way I was like, well, how do those translate? And I was like, well, each time I'm kind of like in those mental ruts, even though I felt like I was way sharper in the Ironman than I do right now, I still remind myself that it is possible for me to be in a really bad spot and like still keep going. Like I was strong, I was tough enough to do that. So I should be, you know, I should be tough enough to get through this. And I don't know, for me, at least just that thought alone has aided in some way, where it's like a reminder kind of that I can do hard things, I guess, or that sometimes I feel like the limit's here, and that's just a mental barrier where it's like, I know there's so much more that doesn't always come out naturally, but if I dig deep, there's a lot more patience there, a lot more grit to do stuff that I don't like to do, that I don't want to do. And I'm not just telling myself that, like, I have proof to back it up now. I think I have like a little bit of a resume of like, I've done this before, I can do it again. To try to verbalize that, because that was one of those weird ones where I was like, I'm having a hard time explaining this, but I guess in that sense, it's like I proved to myself that I could do this. I can do it right now too.
Yeah, there's a big difference when the ending is known or unknown.
Yeah, that too.
But to compound off of that, how are you going to equip yourself in the times when you know that the ending is unknown? Like, for example, Baby H crying for 10 plus minutes. You're like, okay, is it going to be this next minute? Is it going to be this next minute?
Yeah.
How can you like look back at that experience, even though it did have a finish line? How did you feel at minute 38 to 39? Like, it's such a minuscule amount of time compared to the big picture of what we had to go through. The only big parts I remember is starting the race, kind of the turmoil of the bike ride, the turmoil of the run, and mainly just the finish line of like finishing. And even though, I don't know, I guess I'm just running in a circle here, but what I mostly take away from the race is, although that ending was known, how can I go forth in my life with the same mental fortitude when the ending is unknown?
Yeah.
However that may look like. And I mean, everyone's mental toughness, it's not a big starting line of rubric of everyone starts at the same place. No, everyone, nature and nurture, everyone starts at a different spot. Everyone's built differently, but how can you progress forward and continue progressing forward in that mental strength in your day-to-day life? Yeah.
And what I think we talked about this recently with someone, and I feel like it kind of relates. Once you push out of your comfort zone, for that time being, all you can see is kind of the boundary of the comfort zone you're currently in. And then once you break out of that, you realize, oh, it's a little bit bigger than I thought it was. And so each time you kind of step out of that boundary, you kind of grow it a little bit and you kind of build that confidence. And I feel like it's kind of the same way with your mental fortitude a little bit, where you take a step out of it and you realize, oh, there is more here. And then I guess to your point, we did have a lot of tools that we put in the tool belt in preparation for that race. And I think certainly in the times in my life where I get mentally stretched, I guess we can go back to fatherhood. There are tools in the tool belt that I definitely put in there. Like every time that happens, smallest thing, someone was like, set a timer when your baby's crying. You think it's an hour, it's like 5 minutes. Like, you're good. It'll help you kind of regulate the fact that this hasn't been going on forever. You're just kind of riling yourself up. And so each one of those things, and like, I learn my baby better, and I learn about some of the things that she needs, or the things that, help her out in those moments, the things that help me out in those moments, like keep me calm, patient. And so I think it's important to certainly take something from whatever that last battle was. Yeah. Right. You said it one time, if you do the same thing over and over and expect a different result, that's crazy. Like to get something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done. If you do something over and over and don't take anything from it, then
That's on you.
That's on you. You're not learning or equipping yourself to be better. Yeah, to sharpen yourself. I don't know.
And this doesn't have to be like running related or triathlon related. You could even tap into like relationship. If you're getting in the same argument over and over again with your spouse, if you're like having the same debacle with your coworker, like you're going to continue to go to that same trap.
Y'all don't think it's a relationship podcast.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, we're branching out here. Trying to sharpen each other.
Yeah. That's what it's about.
No, yeah. To get something you've never had, you got to do something you never did.
Right, and I think that goes with saying if you keep doing the same things that you do, you're not going to get the things maybe that you want or the outcome that you hope for. Mm-hmm. Anyways, what are some of the pulls that you've had from the big day until now?
Big pull was the amount that my wife poured into me during that training block.
Ooh, that's good.
And that recognition of the amount of sacrifice that she had to make. I thought I was making the sacrifice of my time, energy, commitment. Yeah. She's cooking meals. She's letting me go out and bike for 6 hours on a day that we both have off, which at the time I was on a different floor doing a different type of nursing. When we had days off together, it was
few and far between.
Yeah. Because the amount of weekends that I had to work. So whenever I had to go on those on the weekends, it was asking a lot because we only have so many hours on our off days to spend with each other. So being able to recognize that sacrifice that she made, and now with the later response of how can I step up my sacrifice to the table and put in that effort of like, okay, I had my time, like let me pour into you. So like these last couple months, I've been helping her train for a half marathon that she has next week, and just getting to see like her growth through like the commitment process, the sacrifices that she's having to set aside, and what I have to do when I have to set up to the plate of maybe she can only bring 20% effort to our marriage that night. All right, I'll bring 80, you know.
Yeah, pick up
just
the
being
slack.
Yeah, and so maybe that's something that she got to experience like during the Ironman, but it's something that I've gotten to appreciate after the Ironman.
Yeah.
Is that kind of marital sacrifice.
Yeah.
Throughout that.
Humongous shout out to the wives, Liv and Caitlin.
Yeah.
It takes...
We'll have them on here eventually.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but man, it is quite the commitment, and to have them in our corner, to want to see us get there on our best foot, and to make the sacrifices that they had to make to get us there was, it was incredible. I think, it definitely was more evident after the fact of like, that was a big deal, and I appreciate you a lot for that.
Yeah.
So.
Nope. That was like the biggest takeaway that I got. But
love that.
Other than my hunger for more.
More. Itching to get back after it.
Yeah, maybe not the full distance right now. But yeah. But
looking to the future.
Look into the future right now. I don't know. I'm excited to like switch it up.
Yeah.
Kind of make it a fun year of training. I know this winter block session of just not going through the motions, obviously, but fine-tuning my training, just kind of focusing on running right now has been really fun. And just like getting to enjoy just one aspect rather than having to compartmentalize three different ones. So that's been fun. So I think what I want to get on the schedule this year is 1 half marathon, 1 half Ironman, and then probably one full marathon. So like a A, B, and C race. And so my A race would definitely be the half Ironman in July in Oregon. My B race would probably be like an April half marathon. And then my C race would kind of be like my fun marathon race, like early fall marathon. But that's kind of like my projection for what I feel like is attainable in this season right now, and kind of where we are familial wise.
Yeah. That's exciting. I'm not going to maybe say what 2025 looks like, because, you know, things are in flux right now, and a new member of the family is pretty important and takes priority. So we'll see what...
I wouldn't say it throws a wrench into it. I'm kidding.
We'll see what the capacity looks like. But I would love to still be training and competing in certain things. So I have my eye on a few things. I don't want to make any commitments yet. But I love to do the half in July here in Oregon.
That would be so fun.
And I know that we have a few people thinking about it too, including our friend Kyle from Ivory Creek. So it's fun to see other people kind of get on board, ride the wave. But with...
Yeah, I think it would be cool if, like, we get a group out there, and, like, whoever's watching this, like, you had your friend up in Washington.
Yeah, Evan, down to Salem, Oregon, 2025.
Evan comes down. Yep. I got a buddy up in Washington right now who could definitely pull it off. Like
Aiden, if you want to run.
Aiden's looking at, like, after our half marathon in San Diego a couple weeks ago, he was like, I'm kind of hungry.
Okay.
I was like, Aiden, I know the place for you.
I love that. Reach out to us. Anybody that's watching or listening, reach out to us. If you're curious about it, this one is Salem, Oregon in July of 2025. Not only would we love to hear that you might be interested, we love to answer any questions you have about training. We love to, you know, see you on race day and, like, you know, just like have it be such a fun event where we get a bunch of people together and do something awesome. In terms of Iron Brothers in 2025, because this is something we've talked about a little bit lately, is we've been loving triathlons and we've been loving bringing people into this. We know that some of the things that we talk about are pretty niche, and we obviously got into a lot of nitty-gritty details during our training blocks because we were in the thick of it and we're just super passionate about it. So we love to talk about it. But we want to continue doing this, but instead of the Iron Brothers, we want to open it up to the community people. Granted, this is something that's just kind of an idea right now, and we're hoping to give it some form, maybe in the next few months, whatever that looks like. We don't have a ton of timelines or definitions on it yet. But
it's more of like an ideology and kind of the the conceptualization of what it means to be a part of a community. I'm kidding.
Everything that we're kind of about to say is just stuff that we've thrown at the wall and see if it sticks. But the idea currently as it stands is to try to form some community. I don't know if that's, I don't want to say brand, but some sort of identity to something that we've been kind of tossing around the idea of calling like Iron Kin, where it's kin as in like family or community, where it's not just Jacob and Logan, but it's anyone who wants to do hard things. And what that looks like, we're still talking about, but we kind of are trying to figure out what the mission statement looks like for that, what that means for what we do in 2025 physically. But one of the things I think we wanted to bring more forefront is the idea of iron and like why we chose iron. Obviously Ironman, but it was a little bit deeper than that, and we haven't really dove into it yet. But obviously there's a passage of scripture that we pulled heavy from, and you might have, I don't know, there's tons of like church men's group out there that pull from this, but it tied in perfect to what we were doing at the time and what we want to do. But you want to share about that?
Like Iron Brothers, yes, like Iron Man, haha, Iron Brothers, like two guys doing it. But mainly it stemmed from Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, a man sharpens another.
Yep.
And just kind of going forth of that accountability that you can have in a brotherhood, specifically a Christian fellowship of a brotherhood, and what that can look like in doing something hard like an Ironman. But beyond that, I feel like even though Ironman was such a big thing, I feel like it can be blown up into such a bigger idea of just a community trying to foster brother and sisterhood into just doing hard things. And hard things look differently for everyone on the board. It might look hard for you to even get up in the morning to make your bed and get outside of the house, whoever that may be. I think it was like Men's Mental Health Day not too long ago.
Sure.
The amount of depression and anxiety in our world right now, it's so tough due to its like exponential worsening because of the isolation that you can receive in this world nowadays. And so being a part of a community where we foster growth, accountability, brotherhood or sisterhood, into doing hard things, whatever that looks like for you. It doesn't have to be doing hard thing like a marathon or like an Ironman, but maybe it's just walking a 5K or going to the grocery store. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my idea behind it is that's kind of like the root of what we want to be logistically and practically speaking. That can look many different ways. Yeah. And maybe you want to maybe tap into like an example of like practicality, what that might look like for where we integrate ourselves like into the community.
Yeah, so we're still toying around with whether that's just like a strictly local thing or if it's bigger than that. But right now we've talked about, hey, maybe we can put on some events where we do some running distance. Maybe we tie that in with something else. Maybe we do a run and plunge and like get a run in, go jump in the river. Maybe it's a long bike ride with a group of people. Maybe it's something not even run, bike, or swim, but something that's going to challenge us physically. And so...
physically, mentally, spiritually.
Yeah.
Like everything.
Yeah, physically, mentally, spiritually, and create a space where you're not necessarily forced to do the hard thing, but you choose to do it. Because I think choosing to do it, I heard this sometime recently. I think it was called like elective hardship. It's like the Ironman. Like we didn't have to do that, but we chose to do it. Yeah. And the way that grows you when you are in the situations that maybe you do have to do it. And so I think, creating opportunities like that does give you a chance to grow, put you out of your comfort zone a little bit. But it's also that tied in with, how does that grow you physically? How does that grow you mentally? And then hopefully if we can find an aspect where we can build in some growth spiritually. We talked about, triathlon is trifold, and it would be cool to somehow tie in some aspect of mental, spiritual, and physical health or growth or whatever that looks like. Yeah. And so as we develop kind of Ironkin, we're certainly open to ideas, but essentially we want to build a community that can sharpen one another physically, spiritually, mentally, and how that looks like, maybe through events, maybe, you know, if we get the opportunity to put together some logo sweatshirts, whatever, and having, you know, that mission statement or whatever that looks like, you know, if we get the chance to wear it, we'd love to venture into some of those creative ideas as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so. I think with like the branding and apparel stuff, none of it's like honestly, I don't feel like any of it will be like, oh, we're trying to like make a clothing brand. We're trying to like make a quick $1. We're trying to make a quick $1 type of thing. No, I want to make sure it's like branding ourselves with what we truly believe in. And whether that's doing it just like by the drop of, okay, we have X amount of people that want the large sweatshirts. We have X amount of people. We're not going to oversell or undersell or any of that. It's like we just want to make sure people are buying into the idea.
Yeah. And
rather than the product.
I so want to emphasize the fact it's like, oh, another podcast, oh, another like merch. Like I think we're both really creative and we love the idea of like going down that venture. But we also just want to pursue this idea of just building that community that's very similar to the community that we got with each other, you know, where we had months and months of training that we pushed each other and we held each other accountable for. And we found ways to translate that into our day-to-day, and we did the hard thing, and we got so much out of it, and we saw the fruit of it, and it makes us want to keep doing more stuff like that.
Yep.
I want to be able to share that. Like, I want someone else to feel that, and it may not look the same, but if they can get what we got out of this, then like that, I think that's huge. And
I want my kid to be able to watch this in 10 years.
Yeah.
And enjoy it and get to see like, wow, like my dad was able to integrate and foster this community into what it is now, whatever it may look like 10 years down the road, you know?
All that to say, we wanted to throw these ideas out there because that's where we're headed. And nothing's kind of set in stone yet. I will say, Ironkin, we're kind of thinking about it as like Ironkin Athletic Club, something like that, where we can kind of emphasize, you know, the fitness aspect of it, because that's one of the things that, you know, we feel really passionate about. But yeah, I'm sure we love your input and your feedback. More than anything, and we just wanted to bring you guys into this so you know from the get-go, like, we want to keep building this, and we want to keep pushing each other, and we want to build a community of people that's willing to push each other. Yeah.
Plain and simple.
There you go. I think that might be all we have for today.
Yeah, I have nothing else to say.
If you're curious about races done, these guys are talking about this, you know, athletic club, whatever, but they're saying that's super far in the future. Are they going to do podcasts, and what are they going to talk about? We would love to bring some people on to like interview and have the chance to talk about, you know, what pushes you physically, what pushes you mentally, what pushes you spiritually, what are some of the hard things that you've did. And, you know, I think we know some people that have done some pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah.
So I would say that's absolutely on the horizon for us as soon as we figure out the logistics of it. You know, we've got our wives who've got crazy stories of as well. And, you know, it's also not the last race that we're ever going to run. So you've heard Jacob's 2025. And you know some of the things that are on the horizon. So I think there's going to be a lot more for people that aren't like, I don't want to hear about triathlons or et cetera. We're certainly going to talk about, you know, that stuff as it comes up and as it's a part of our training or whatever, if that's what we're training for.
I mean, we'll still have like segments like later down the road, I want to try out like 3 different pairs of shoes and like try to see how they fit with like my running style. And I'm going to, like, when I check Caitlin in for her half marathon next week, it's at Foot Traffic. And I was like, oh, I'll just do a foot analysis while I'm there.
There you go.
So like talk about that. Like we'll still talk about stuff that pertains to.
So there's certainly going to be more of that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, as we do different races or events, I think that's going to present new challenges and different things for us to hone in and focus on. And then with the people we bring on, I'm sure we're going to have tons of stories of all kinds of stuff. So the hope is that, you know, we can have a place to talk about things that, I don't know, a broader amount of people might be able to engage with. I know some people that are like, dude, I don't need to hear 30 minutes of you guys talking about
Zone 2.
Zone 2. Anyways,
for sure.
I just want to put that out there. In case you're wondering. It's really exciting though. Really stoked about what's coming up and really still want to invest in this. So thank you for following along.
Yeah. And until next time,
we'll see you later.
Peace out. Boom. Winter arc has commenced.
Off season loading. Lock in.